If you wanted to meet one of the most remarkable prodigies of the late 20th century, you would need to go to the Middle East. Ruth Lawrence is considered one of the highest IQ women alive. Some estimates place her IQ above 170, ranking her among the top 3 recorded amongst women. At just 10 years old, she became the youngest person ever admitted to Oxford University. She earned her Doctor of Philosophy, DPhil, in mathematics from Oxford at the age of 17. By 19, she was a junior fellow at Harvard University, working as a professor before she was old enough to legally buy a drink in the United States. She was the darling of the British and American media, and following her move to the US, she was heralded as the next Einstein. But she chose a very different life for herself. But today, Ruth Lawrence Neymark lives far away from the limelight. She is a full professor at the Einstein Institute of Mathematics at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. She works in an office on the Edmund J. Safra campus in Givat Ram, focusing on pure mathematics, including quantum topology, knot theory, quantum groups, and differential graded Lie algebras. She is a mother of 4, active in her community, and manages her academic work in Israel from an apartment in what some have called a drab suburb of Jerusalem. This is the story of one of the smartest women alive, and the life she chose for herself. Born in Brighton, England, on the 2nd of August 1971, Lawrence became well known for breaking records, reaching Oxford-level mathematics at just 9 years old. Her childhood was strictly shaped by her parents, Harry Lawrence and Sylvia Grayborn. Both worked as computer consultants in the 1970s. When Ruth was 5, Harry decided to leave his well-paying job in computing to teach his daughter at home. Harry used a method called hothousing, which means focusing intensely on one subject to push a child's intellectual growth. He was very skeptical of regular education and typical childhood activities. He thought childhood was not for play or emotional growth, but a short, important time to be developing. He kept Ruth away from what he saw as the trivial conversation and pointless playing of other children, believing these activities would slow her progress, distract her, and waste her developing mind's potential. This strict approach was not new for Harry, and Ruth was not his first attempt at raising a prodigy. Reports say Harry had tried similar methods with his older daughter Sarah from his first marriage to Judah. That first attempt caused serious problems in the marriage, and his wife eventually left him, troubled by his strict educational style. His second wife, Sylvia, was much more supportive of his plans. She let Harry focus all his energy on teaching Ruth. Interestingly, reports say that Ruth's younger sister, Rebecca, did not undergo the same intensive math training. Rebecca was talented at the piano and, with her mother's support, focused on music rather than her father's strict academic curriculum. People who knew the Lawrence family had mixed feelings. Some saw Harry as a devoted father who gave up his career to help his daughter reach her potential. Others thought he was too controlling. He was living through his daughter's achievements and treating her upbringing like an experiment. However, it would be unfair to call this relationship exploitative. Ruth herself has said, "My father brought me up with maths always around me. I always thought it was very beautiful." By age 9, in 1980, she passed her O-level mathematics exam, setting a new national age record. That same year, still only 9, she earned a grade A in A-level pure mathematics, an exam usually meant for 18-year-olds preparing for university. But it was her achievement at age 10 that made her internationally famous. In 1981, Lawrence took the highly competitive Oxford entrance exam in mathematics. Out of 530 top candidates, most of whom were twice her age and from elite schools, Ruth placed first. Competing at this level against much older students was unheard of. Because she was so young, she waited a short time before starting at St. Hugh's College, Oxford, in 1983 at age 12. She finished the 3-year mathematics degree in just 2 years. At 13, she graduated with a first-class degree, earning a starred first and a special commendation. She became the youngest British person to earn a first-class degree and the youngest known Oxford graduate. After her success in mathematics, she earned a second Oxford degree in physics at age 15 in 1986. By June 1989, at 17, she completed her Doctor of Philosophy, DPhil, in mathematics. Her advisor was the well-known mathematician Sir Michael Atiyah, winner of the Fields Medal in 1966 and the Abel Prize in 2004. One of the most memorable images from her time at Oxford is the tandem bicycle. Harry Lawrence often rode with his young daughter through the streets of Oxford on a 2-seater bike. He did not just drop her off. He attended her lectures and some tutorials, always making sure her education continued without pause. The father and daughter became nearly as famous as Ruth alone. They were a team. They used we instead of I when talking to the press about her progress. Harry's constant presence among undergraduates caused tension, and eventually the St. Hugh's Junior Common Room banned him from student areas. In the tutorial rooms, Ruth's true ability became clear. Her tutor, Mary Lunn, said, "Ruth is exhausting. It takes all my time to keep up with her." Lunn encouraged Ruth to make her own mark in mathematics. After finishing her doctorate, Lawrence began a new chapter in America. In 1990, at just 19, she moved to the United States to be a junior fellow at Harvard University. Her father, Harry, joined her as he had in Oxford, continuing to act as her main guardian and manager in academic settings. In 1993, Lawrence took a faculty job at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. The tough American tenure system challenged her independence as a researcher, but she succeeded. By 1997, she was promoted to associate professor with tenure. During this time, Lawrence met Aryeh Neimark, an Israeli mathematician. Unlike the people who had influenced her earlier life, he was not a tutor, manager, or parent, but a fellow mathematician with his own background and interests, and, notably, just 6 years younger than Ruth's father. They fell in love, and their relationship opened up new emotional, cultural, and geographic possibilities. For someone whose life had always been closely tied to her father's choices, this was a new kind of possibility elsewhere. That new direction was Israel. In 1998, she married Neimark and became Lawrence Neimark. In 1999, they moved to Jerusalem, and she joined the Hebrew University. In Jerusalem, mathematics was still important, but it was no longer part of her father's plan. Religion, marriage, learning Hebrew, community, and motherhood gave her a new way to define herself on her own terms. Harry Lawrence seemed to have mixed feelings about the change. In public, he defended Ruth's choices and denied that she had wasted her talents. However, reports suggest that the move signaled a real shift in control away from him. Accounts of their relationship after this are mixed. Some say there was a break or long separation, while others, including Harry's later comments, say there was no major split. Even if they stayed in touch, the old dynamic was gone. For the first time, Ruth was in control of her own life. Her research focuses on quantum topology, knot theory, combinatorics, geometry, and physics. For most people, these words can seem like confusing jargon, but the main ideas are actually quite elegant. Knot theory is, at its heart, just what it sounds like, but taken to a high level of mathematical abstraction. It asks a simple question: when are two tangled loops of string really the same knot, and when are they different? If you can twist, stretch, and move one knot to look exactly like another without breaking the string, they are considered the same in math. To show this, mathematicians create invariants, algebraic formulas that stay the same no matter how you change the knot's shape. She also works a lot with braid groups. Braid groups look at what happens when several strands weave around each other without being cut. Picture a few strings hanging from the ceiling, crossing over and under each other in set patterns. Mathematicians use algebra to describe these crossings, how they can be moved, combined, and untangled. Quantum topology builds on these ideas. It uses advanced algebra and ideas from quantum physics to study knots, braids, and the properties of complex three-dimensional spaces. Lawrence's best-known early work, which stemmed directly from her 1989 doctoral thesis, was homology representations of braid groups. This research led to her landmark 1990 paper, Homological Representations of the Hecke Algebra. That paper introduced complex algebraic ideas that later became known as the Lawrence-Krammer Representation. It helps solve a long-standing problem about the basic nature of braid groups. After Lawrence's 1990 paper, mathematicians Don Cramer and Stephen Bigelow used her work to make a major breakthrough in the early 2000s. They proved that these representations are faithful, leading to the key result that mathematicians summarize as braid groups are linear. This work had a significant impact. In their well-known book on the topic, mathematicians Christian Castle and Vladimir Turaev highlighted the importance of her contribution, calling her constructions two remarkable representations. Stephen Bigelow, who helped prove the linearity of braid groups, modestly described his own role as clarifying the work of Lawrence. In 1999, she worked with mathematician Don Zagier to publish Modular Forms and Quantum Invariants of Three Manifolds, a key paper that connected quantum invariance with the Eichler integral of modular forms and started a new area of research in quantum topology. That same year, she published Witten-Reshetkin-Turaev invariants of Seifert manifolds with Lev Rozansky, which advanced the understanding of topological quantum field theories. She continues to produce important work even now, showing that her mind is still working at a high level. Recent papers from 2021 and 2025 show her ongoing involvement with advanced geometry and algebra. These ongoing contributions confirm that her legacy is defined by a sustained lifetime of rigorous output, rather than a singular flash of early brilliance. She has built a towering body of work that will outlast the headlines. Moving to Israel led Lawrence to a deep religious transformation. She embraced her Jewish roots and became a devoted Orthodox Jew. She learned Hebrew, started covering her head as tradition requires, and fully joined the Orthodox community. Reports say she followed strict religious and social customs, making her home life very different from her earlier secular upbringing. Today, Professor Ruth Lawrence Neymark is a full professor at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, working at the Edmund J. Safra campus. Her university profiles and research pages show she is still active in her field, focusing on quantum topology and related areas through 2025. Stories describes her as a mother of four, living in a modest suburb of Jerusalem and leading a quiet, ordinary life. She manages a busy academic career while raising a large family in an Orthodox setting. Although she avoids the press and recent personal stories are rare, her steady flow of published research shows she is still an active scientist. She teaches courses such as mathematical methods to physics and engineering students, and sometimes travels to Ann Arbor, United States, to continue research collaborations. She was selected as a Fellow of the American Mathematical Society, AMS. She joined the inaugural class in 2013, an honor given to mathematicians who have made lasting contributions to the field. She also received the 2021 Professor Amnon Pazzi Memorial Award, presented by the U.S. Israel Binational Science Foundation, in recognition of her continued high-level research output. However, she's yet to become the modern-day Albert Einstein. Her tutor at Oxford once predicted she would when she said Ruth well deserves the description of geniuses. When talking about her early start in mathematics, Lawrence once said her father always surrounded her with math, and she found it very beautiful. As a child, she told the press that mathematics was about interesting patterns. In a rare 1997 interview, she shared her practical view on her work. When asked about the usefulness of knot theory, she said that deep mathematics often becomes useful, but usually much later. You shouldn't expect that deep fundamental research will be applicable to anything in the science advisor next 50 years, she said. Lawrence's story sparked a bigger debate about whether gifted children should be pushed ahead in school at the expense of a normal childhood. Her childhood was carefully guarded by her father, who avoided trivial conversations and pointless playing, so she grew up in a very controlled environment without real peers. She has talked about wanting her son Yehuda to have a childhood and not be forced to stand out. She has often said she wants her children to be normal and to grow up naturally, rejecting the strict upbringing her father gave her. No story about Ruth Lawrence is complete without talking about her father, Harry Lawrence's reflections on her journey. Even in his 80s, living in Michigan with his American violinist girlfriend and working as a part-time math tutor, Harry stands by his methods. He strongly defends his approach. In later interviews, he argued against the idea that childhood should be about play, saying, "The idea that it's a time to mess around is wrong. For him, childhood is a time to be developing." He rejects the idea that Ruth's quieter life in Jerusalem means she did not reach her potential. She's influencing the lives of hundreds of people who will become mathematicians. Who's to say that isn't more worthwhile than a firework that produces something astounding, he said. The later relationship between Ruth and her father is not fully clear. One article said Ruth stopped speaking to her parents after moving to Israel. But another, quoting Harry, said there was never any rupture. Harry says they still talk regularly by phone, and he explained the distance by saying, "Girls grow up, and they become women. They marry and have children. This is all natural and normal." He also claimed Ruth had originally asked him to move with her to Israel. When asked if he missed her, Lawrence hesitated. "I don't know. Obviously, yes and no. This is such a difficult thing. I mean, does anyone miss their children when they leave?"